Good morning, students. In our today's class, we'll discuss the third poem of a book, that is A Tiger in the Zoo. Now, before proceeding for the poem, I would like to give you a brief intro of the poet. This poem is written by George Leslie Norris. He was a prize-winning Welsh poet and basically a short story writer. He is considered as most important writers of the post-war period, and his literary works have won many prizes. His famous works are Finding Gold. Now, if we talk about this poem explains the agony, that is the great pain or the suffering of and the helplessness of a caged tiger that lives in a zoo. The poet explains what his life could be if he had been a free animal. So we can say that the poet has tried to explain about the condition of animals that are caged by human beings for their fun. So now if we talk about the setting of the poem, this poem has two distinct settings. Two distinct setting means two different settings. First is that is of a zoo where a tiger is in a cage, and the second one is in which the tiger is in its natural habitat where it should be free. Now, in this poem, the poet has given appropriate description of a tiger. The poem contrasted a tiger in the zoo in his cage with a tiger in its natural habitat. The poem moves from the zoo to the jungle and back to the zoo again. Now, if you read the whole poem, you will find out. So, if we say the tiger is full of rage, but it's quite moving in his cage in a starry night and long for freedom. Long means he wants freedom. It should have been moving freely in the forest and hunting at its own will if it was free, but it was not so. So, you can see this whole poem is divided into, it consists of 5 stanzas, and each stanza consists of 4 lines. So let us discuss this poem stanza wise. Let's move to the first stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes up the few steps of his cage on the pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. Now here, if you see this stanza, the poet says that the tiger that is confined in the zoo is moving up and down in his cage. The strips of his body are of strong, bright color. The strips of his body are strong, bright in color. The tiger moves quietly because it cannot take more steps. It can only take few steps as it was in cage. So, he is full of rage. Rage means anger. But he is quiet. Quiet means silent because he knows that he is helpless here. Now here you can see the poet has used the word he. It means he has personified tiger. We'll discuss poetic devices later on. Let's move to the next stanza. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Now in this stanza, looking at the imprisoned tiger, the poet is filled with pity. Pity means a feeling of sadness for somebody. He says that the poor tiger should have been in its natural habitat. That at point of the night he would have been lying in shadow of a tree and sliding quietly through a long grass. There near the water hole he would be waiting for some fat deer to pass that way. Fat deer to pass that way here means it should wait for its prey. Thus he would be lying in the expectation to have a heavy feast. Basically, the poet wants to say that the actual life of a tiger is to live in jungle, where he could catch its prey and eat, but in the cage he cannot. Now the third stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Now in this stanza, the poet imagines what the tiger would be doing in the case he failed to find any prey in his natural habitat. He says the tiger would be growing at the edge of the jungle near some village. He would be snarling his white fangs, sharp teeth. White fangs means sharp teeth of animal, and claws while moving here and there. He would thus become a cause of terror for the villagers, and the poets have given a hint that if we destroy the natural habitat of tigers, they will be forced to turn to our towns and villages to find their food. Now the next stanza. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. Now, in this stanza, in these lines, the poet sees the tigers locked in a concrete cell in the zoo. In spite of his strength, he now lies imprisoned behind the bars. Behind the bars here means in cage. Very slowly and silently, he moves up and down along the length of the cage. He takes no note. No note means no attention, because he knows very well that people are devoid of his feeling, as none of them will thinks of releasing him from this prison. So he takes no note of the visitors who came to the zoo to have a look at him. Now the last stanza, he hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Now, in these lines, the tiger knows no rest during the day because of the visitors, and even in night he remains disturbed due to noise of patrolling cars. He keeps staring at the brilliant stars with his brilliant eyes. Perhaps he is asking heaven why he has been imprisoned here. Now this was all about the poem. Now let us discuss the rhyming scheme of the poem, and then we'll discuss the poetic devices used in the poem. Now students, as you all know that when we have to find the poetic devices of the poem, we consider the last words of each line and we'll name it A, B, C and D. Now first is stripes. Now for stripes, does it rhymes with any other word? Let's check. If it is, then we'll give it a name. For example, stripes, we'll consider it as A. Does it rhymes with cage? No. With quiet? No. With rage? No. Cage rhymes with rage. So here stripes will be marked as A, cage will be marked as B, quiet will be marked as C, and rage will be marked as B again, because it rhymes with cage. Now look at the second stanza. Shadow, grass, hole, pass. Now shadow, again we'll mark it as A. Then come to the second word, that is grass, we'll mark it as B. Then hole, it does not rhymes with shadow nor it rhymes with grass, so we'll mark it as C. And then pass, it rhymes with grass, so we'll mark it as B. Now let's move to the third stanza. He should be snarling around houses. Now houses, H, clause, village. Again houses, A, H, P, clause, C, village, B. So A, B, C, A. So this will be the rhyming scheme, I think, throughout the poem. Now next stanza, cell, bars, cage, visitors. Now cell does not rhymes with bars. It does not rhymes with cage. It does not rhymes with visitors. So we'll mark cell as A, bars as B, cage as C, and visitors as bars, visitors. So it is again B. Night, cars, eyes, stars. So night does not rhymes with any other word. Cars rhymes with stars, so we'll mark both of them as B and eyes as C. So this is the rhyming scheme of the poem. Let's talk about the poetic devices used in the poem. Now if we start with the very first line, we can see that here the poet has personified tiger by using the word he throughout the poem. You can see in every stanza he has addressed the tiger as he. So here he has personified tiger. It means it's a poetic device which is used when we give human qualities, or we bestow human qualities to something which is not human. So here tiger is personified because the poet refers to him as a he in the whole poem. Now let's talk about the next poetic device which is used in this poem. Now you can see in the third line, on pads of velvet quiet. Now here the poetic device used by the poet is metaphor. Now what is metaphor? When a comparison is made between two different things or ideas in which they have at least one thing in common or one character in common. Now here you can see the pads of the the pads of the tiger are compared with the velvet. Velvet is a kind of a fabric, you know, which is very soft. So here the tiger's paws are compared with the velvet, as both are soft and smooth to the touch. Now third poetic device used in this poem is enjambment. You can see enjambment in the second paragraph, where second and third line up to the fourth line of the second stanza, there is no punctuation mark used. So this is an enjambment. Enjambment is a poetic device where there is no punctuation mark at the end of any sentence. Now, if we talk about the imaginary is another poetic device which is used in this first stanza. It is, here you can imagine. It means the poet wants us to imagine something. He creates a scene in reader's mind that they begin to imagine what he says. Now, here you can see the poet tries to create an image about the tiger. He stalks in its vivid strip a few steps in a cage. Now, we began to imagine how we take few steps in the cage. Now, the next poetic device used in this stanza is consonance. Consonance, it is a repetition of a consonant sound in a particular line. Now you can see in the very first line of the opening line of the poem, the sound of S has been repeated again and again. Now, stalks S in the beginning as well as at the end of the word, at the end of his, then at the beginning as well as at the end of stripes. So you can see the 5 times S has been repeated. So this is a beautiful example of consonance. Now, next poetic device used in this particular stanza is assonance. So this poetic device is a device in which a vowel sound is repeated, and we can say a vowel sound is prominent. So you can see in this, the poetic device used here is in this line, in his vivid strips. In his vivid strips, you can see in, I in his, and 2 times I in vivid and 1 time I in strips. So you can see the sound of I has been repeated. So in the very first line you have find how many poetic devices. First is personification, second is consonance, third is your assonance. Now next is oxymoron. This is also a poetic device which is used in first stanza only. This oxymoron is a poetic device where there is a use of such words which are opposite in meaning. They can be words or adjectives which are opposite in meaning. You can see the last 2 words of this stanza is quiet, rage. Quiet means absolute silence and rage means anger. Now here we can imagine that whenever somebody is angry, he uses some words to express his anger. He cannot keep absolute silence. But here the poet has used 2 different words to express the anger of the tiger. One is quiet, which is opposite of rage. So this is an example of oxymoron, when 2 different words have been used which are opposite in meaning. Right? So this is an example of oxymoron. Now we'll move to the second stanza. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Now in this particular stanza we can see the example of enjambment, because from the 3rd line to the 4th line there is no any punctuation mark used. So it is a beautiful example of enjambment. Now the next poetic device used here is alliteration. Alliteration means it refers to the occurrence of same letter or a same sound words at the beginning of closely connected words. So use of sound that has the same beginning, use of the word letters which has the same beginning, like plump and pass. So you can see P in plump and pass and P in pass. So they are closely connected or nearby words in which P sound has been repeated. So this is an example of alliteration. Now the next poetic device used in this particular stanza is imagery. Now here the poet tries to create an image of tiger's activity. Now how? By the words like be lurking in shadow. Now here we can imagine how the how the tiger was in a strong desire of getting something, getting his feast or getting its prey. So he wants us to imagine that thing. Now next is onomatopoeia. This is again a poetic device used in this particular stanza. So here you can see it is the use of sound words. Sound words you can see in this third stanza. It is snarling. Snarling means a kind of a sound created by animals. So the poetic device used in this particular line is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a use of sound words. Now next is poetic device used in these lines is assonance. Assonance means use of vowel sound, that is use of O and I. You can see use of O in the first line, should, around, houses. Now O has been repeated in all these three words, in should, around and in houses. And barring his feet, white his. Now in this again I has been repeated in barring his, white his. Again I sound has been repeated, so this is also an example of assonance. Now consonance. Consonance, it is also used in this stanza. It is repetition of consonant sound S. Here you can see the repetition of S sound in his, fangs, his, claws. Now in these few words S sound has been repeated. You can see it is in the end of his, in end of fangs, at the end of his, and again at the end of claws. Now let's move to the next stanza. Assonance. Now assonance, it is a vowel sound. No need to explain you what is assonance again and again. So you can see the vowel sound E has been repeated. In this fourth stanza, the vowel sound E has been repeated. He locked concrete cell. Now you can see in these four words sound E has been repeated again and again. Now the second poetic device used in this stanza is consonance. Again sound of S has been repeated. Sound of S has been repeated in the words like his, strength and bars. His, strength and bars. Now here the sound of S has been repeated. Now alliteration. Use of alliteration is also there in the two adjoining words, that in the last two words of the second line, behind bars. Now B, it means two adjoining words when starts with the same letter sound, we call it alliteration. You can see behind also starts with B and bars also starts with B. So this is a repetition of a same letter sound in the beginning of adjoining words. So this is behind bars. Now let's move on to the last stanza, enjambment. Again you can see, students, personification and enjambment has been repeated throughout the poem in all the stanzas. So there is no need to repeat it again and again. Now the next poetic device used here in this particular stanza is alliteration. The sound of H. The sound of H is there in the starting of two words. He hears. He hears. So this is also an example of alliteration where sound of H has been repeated. Second is assonance. You can see the example of assonance, that is repetition of consonant sound. In the third line, the I has been repeated in the words, that is with his, brilliant. Now you can see I has been repeated 4 times in with, in his and in brilliant. So this is an example of assonance. So these all are about the poetic devices used in the poem. I hope you will able to understand the complete poem. You have to read this poem to understand it well. Thank you.